Dr. Foojan Zeine, and today is Thursday, March 26th, and we have a gathering together and in Zoom with friends and colleagues and professionals to talk about all that's happening to all of us. Obviously, this is an experience that we all kind of share in some way, and yet we don't necessarily share exactly the same thing. So it is, each one of us have a unique way of experiencing what we're experiencing. So I'm going to start with my own experience with all of you. I think that this week I've taken it really, really more serious than any other week that I had heard about it this past month. It's been more of, at the beginning, it was like, okay, it's a flu. What's the problem? You know, people more died out of influenza, so don't worry about it. And then it got a little bit more serious in a way that I felt more responsible. I felt more responsible not to give it to clients, for one client not to come in and to give it to another person in the office. Felt responsible to go out and come back and, you know, maybe infect my husband. So it became more of a responsibility for others. Like I would have to take care of others in that way. So then it was very hard for me to be able to continue doing outside work. So it was more, okay, let's just go home and not do anything outside. And although it was a little bit awkward, I have to tell you the truth. The secret is I'm really enjoying being home. And it's just fun to go from one room, which is the office, and then exchange the other room and the office, and then go to the kitchen and then come back. And so far, the only time that I could tell you that I got really, really bad, and I think I shared this with Amethyst this morning, as I said, you know, I went on a scale, and the scale showed that I was 2 pounds more heavier than before, and I fired the scale. And I said, that's it. You know, I'm turning into Trump. We got to have an issue here. If I don't like the fact, I'm just going to fire it. That was the only piece that I could say that, you know, I'm trying to handle, not to do the socialization pieces and be okay with not going out. But we did Zoom parties. We did Zoom parties with family. We did Zoom parties with friends, with colleagues. We have a singing group. We actually did a singing group on Zoom last night. So, you know, things are kind of like moving along, and the whole piece is getting different. I'm signed up for classes. I signed up for a class of happiness at Yale. I signed up for how to create online courses. So it's more of like, you know, being with what is. I have some clients that have unfortunately gotten have been infected by the coronavirus, been talking to them, they're doing okay, and they're all gonna come through. So it's all of it. It's positive, it's negative, all of it is there. So that's my sharing. And I'll leave it up to you guys to tell me who wants to share. And I might mute all except the person who's wanting to talk. By the way, you guys, there's a chat button here that if you push the chat button, I don't know if you guys are with your phone or computer, but you can also type in on your chat with me and tell me like if you wanted to talk or something, so that as long as we don't have an issue with conversations, I don't have to mute you all. But if there are a lot of sound and someone is talking, I might mute you. All right, who wants to talk?
I'm still working on the camera thing, though.
Okay. Somebody who's got it and has something to share, jump in, tell me.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna go on first.
Go if he's not available. Fine.
The thing for me, again, you know, I go through a lot of fear, and as you said, my fear has gotten worse. And I try to calm myself, and I try to say, you know what, this is something that's gonna come and go and pass. But again, I get news or I hear something or I get something in one, and it triggers me and it makes me panic and worried again. And last night I woke up around like 1 o'clock with a cough. You know, while I was sleeping, I had a cough, and immediately I jumped up and I panicked, and went to the bathroom and I started gargling with the salt, and and I was up until the morning, and I keep going to the bad place that what if, and look at the news and I see what's going on, and I see that there's ships coming to the docks, and they're having extra beds and having extra like a whole hospital next to the water for the other people that are not coronavirus to be taken out of the hospital and go to the ship so they can be taken care of. And it just worries me. And my wife says, don't worry about it, but she's here, and she says, you just going to the extreme, and you're going to the worst of everything. But I really don't know. So that's my sharing, I guess.
Thank you. And can you tell me what it is that you worried about?
I guess death. And my biggest worry is one of us getting sick and going to the hospital, and they say, oh, we don't have enough room, or we don't have a bed, or we don't and one of us needs a respirator or something, and they say, oh, we don't have for you, and or it's not enough. And that's what worries
Got it.
me.
So
That's
part
the aspect of the money wise also, that I'm not working, but that's not my biggest issue. My biggest issue is death and health.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Um, who else would like to share?
I guess, can you hear me?
Yes.
Maranjan, I think you still worry about things that you are not sure about. What you worry about and panicking about things that hasn't happened yet. So that's actually give you stress, and it's gonna actually make your immune system much weaker than what it is now, because you need all your strength. It's as far as the financial thing, the hospital, everything is gonna be, they're gonna take care of it. What you worry about that part. As far as if you're catching it or not, you haven't yet. So even if it comes to your body, some of us, what if someone can tell you you already have it, you have no symptoms, and it's just passing through you? It doesn't have to, you don't have to be worried about something that you don't know. Worry about things that you know. You can be worried about right now you don't have water at home, so you have to go get some water and bring it home. Worry about that, that's fine. And that's not worry, that's be concerned. So, but becoming sick and going to the hospital and there's not enough ventilator, this is a scenario that you are creating for yourself is unnecessary. So whenever something happened to us, we have as a human being ability to cope with that. We can handle it. So look at it consciously. Don't just look at it as a if. When it happens, I mean, what is the worst thing happen to someone? If I lose a dear one, the friend, parents, family members. So we can handle it because we've been handling it. So that's the worst scenario. But do we think about it all the time? When I see my dad, when I see my mom, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what if I lose them? We all die one day. We don't have to think about it that much, but being concerned about it is something that's fine. But worry is different. Don't be worried. I mean, when they say, stay home because the only reason is you're not expose yourself to it and not giving it to someone else. That's concern. That's nothing to be worried.
So what I'm hearing from you, Dr. Ghassemlou, is what you're saying is more than beyond just don't worry, is if you want to worry, because hold on, we can't. Zoom is one of those pieces you guys cannot all talk together. So I'm going to run the show because everybody cannot talk together. It's not Zoom cannot handle that. We're not going to hear each other. So one of the things that I'm hearing is also people worry. So the point will be, if you're going to worry about something that you have the capacity to do something about. There's no way that at this point you can worry about something that is not in your control. So if it's not in your control, you are kind of wasting your brain energy in worrying about something that's not in your control. Because whenever you get there, then you'll handle it the way it needs to be handled at that moment. And if not, then there's nothing you could do. So, but you can worry about the things that is in your capacity and things that you can do, because you can do something about it at that moment. Like if, like the example was, if you don't have water, get water. I still don't understand why people are getting bottled water. There's nothing wrong with water. You could get a filter, you can put it on, you know, boil it and have it. So there's no reason for jumping out there and getting bottled water either. But that's the basis of the worry that I'm hearing. Amethyst, I know that your hands are up and you want to talk, and I'm going to unmute you in a minute. With the professionals, if I would also request when you guys talk to also at least once, because people are keep jumping in, to kind of also introduce yourself and say who you are. Dr. Arash Rezazadeh is with us. Thank you, Dr. Rezazadeh, for being here. I have requested for the professionals and the medical doctors and psychologists, if they like to put out, I want them to see you, so have your camera on. Other people, because it's being taped, if you don't want your camera on, don't worry about it. So Arash, if it's okay with you, put your camera on so people know who you are. If not,
I did. Okay. Yes.
All right. Hey. Thank you so much. All right, Amethyst, you're on.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amethyst Kiani. And thank you, Foojan Zeine, for inviting me in this you know, a beautiful setup. You bring every one of us out of our isolations. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm a licensed marriage family therapist, and I have a PsyD degree. I have been working in the field for over 20 years now. Wow, I'm getting old. And love what I do. It's a pretty funny place that I find, and I find a lot of you guys and people that I talk to in this spot, in this time of the universe, and we've been so privileged to be part of this. There's a big message coming towards every one of us, and for me, I'm hoping to be able to get this message before I get really panicked. So I'm putting a lot of my time and energy and the way I think and the way I stop myself about, there must be something about this. Where can I create that growth? Where have I been neglecting pieces of me, pieces of my relationship, giving all those essences that we're very aware of. So I'm very aware of other people's anxiety and fears, and I really feel for every one of them. I wish I could help them. I'm trying to call my clientele and just chat with them for 5 minutes. How you guys are doing? How you guys are holding up. So I think I can say I'm good. I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm good.
Anything you want to share with Mehran or other people about the conversation about worrying? I know Dr. Reza Ghassemlou stated some of his ideas. Do you have anything to add to?
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm sorry, the first gentleman who shared about his worrying, I'm not sure if I got his name. Mehran. Okay, Mehran. What I heard was that seems like Mehran has a very articulate way of looking at things. He's very creative. He's really articulate in creating images, and then that works. That has been working for him probably for many years in professional life and in personal life. But when it comes to these real type of tragedies, or just all this reality of that we're dealing with, going to the next level and creating something even more horrifying doesn't help. So I'm inviting you to use that articulation that you have, creative side of you that you have, put it in the side that it will gives you something. As Foojan Zeine said, go get the toilet paper. I don't know why, but people are doing that. Start doing something that you have been missing, and protecting yourself first, and respect others to protect them. That's the biggest thing we can do. It seems like that's the only time in history that we don't have to do anything, and that's all they want from us. Isn't that fun?
Very true. By the way, there's a joke that's going around that the reason everybody's buying the toilet paper is because when one person sneezes, 10 other person really have to go to the bathroom right at the same time because they shut their mouth. So we figured out why everybody's doing that. So thank you, Amethyst. Arash, I'm going to unmute you for a minute. First, I want you to, if you can please introduce yourself. Plus that one of the conversations before you came out, and I know that you are in UCI and you are working with a lot of people in the hospitals, but part of the conversation and the concern is what happens, for example, and I'm asking you to share this, that what happens if somebody has a lower amount of symptomology, like if it's just a throat ache or some issues that are happening with their body and they really need to stay put in house and don't need to get out, they don't need to, you know, go to the hospitals or anything happens. When is it that you would suggest for somebody to actually take this conversation and go to the hospital? And then as far as you know, because I know you're not only you are in a UCI hospital, but you're also seeing a lot of other, you're talking to a lot of other physicians that are in the hospitals. What is it that people can expect, in a sense, when they go into a hospital?
Well, if the question is how long you can stay at home and not go to the hospital and kind of rest there, you have to consider several things. First of all, if this disease is going to be self-limited and going to the hospital is going to make it worse, if you don't have the coronavirus, you're going to catch the coronavirus in the hospital. So that's why we're trying to keep the patient out of the hospital to decrease the risk of catching it from other people. I think as long as you feel like it's like a bad flu, even, it's okay. As long as you don't have shortness of breath, you can eat and drink, you can walk around and take care of yourself. I don't think there's any point of going to the hospital. Because honestly, despite the fact the things that are going on, people talking about hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin and this and that, we truly don't use them for early disease. I mean, for patients who have symptoms, but it's not the symptoms that they're bedridden, they cannot move, they cannot breathe, and they feel horrible. I mean, a bad flu, a flu that you get every year, and you have a little bit of fever, you get up and go take a shower and eat and drink. I think as long as you're recovering, you're not getting worse, and especially if you don't have respiratory symptoms like severe cough and especially short of breath. That's very important. If you can't breathe, that's the time to go to the hospital because you may need. I tell you, when patients come in and we see them with cough and all that, most of the time, if you see patient is stable, we advise them to go back home. So that's the thing. But again, if you feel dehydrated, can't eat or drink, you're too weak to get up and do something, that's the time to go to the hospital, get IV fluids and support as well. I just tell you one more thing that I wanted to announce this, and you can spread the word if you want. There is a drug, there's an antiviral drug, and we were talking about it the other day, and UCI has a clinical trial on it. So if you know somebody who's in bad shape at home and getting worse, there is a drug that we can use here, and it's in clinical trial, of course. And I think that's the best way of treating a patient who needs active antiviral therapy.
Yes, and I spoke with, I think Dr. Zahra
Azadabadi.
Azadabadi, yes. And they're doing the study in UCI about this. And she also said that this UCLA has this study, UC Davis. UC San Diego has this study. And I think one thing that you said, because I know that one of my clients is in the hospital in Nevada, and I offered and I said, this is what you had said, and I sent it to them. I said they actually in their hospital was giving them. But I liked what you said, which was if you're going to go to any hospitals or anything that you want to choose, at least get onto the study, have the study, put yourself on it so that you become, that people actually get to know what the outcome of the study is. Because if you're going to take the medication anyway, it's better for you to be one of the numbers that they see, whether, hopefully it works, and then it's part of that.
So again, can I add something else, Fujanta? The fact that Gilead Health, the company that makes the drug, has decided to give all the drug to the sites that doing clinical trials rather than using it off-label, which I think is a very smart move. So because that way we have the approval, it can be used for everybody rather than patches here and there. So it's unlikely for people in near future to get it off trial.
Yeah, one of the concerns that I have, and I'm just going to share it, is people don't look at numbers because numbers don't mean anything. I know people who are going right now into their doctors, they're going to hospitals, they're going into places they're not testing them. And they say very clearly, we've been told not to test because they don't want the numbers to go up. So don't even look at the numbers. It's like, I'm just talking for general public. The numbers don't mean anything to the rest of us. It just scares the crap out of us. It doesn't mean anything. I think the numbers are important for the physicians, for policymakers, for that. Those are the group that numbers matter to. For the rest of us, I think people, first of all, they're not accurate. So you're just looking at numbers that have no accuracy. Plus that they're numbers that you like what Dr. Ghasemlou was saying is not going to support you. There's nothing you could do about that. Dr. Ghasemlou, I'm unmuting you. I was watching your head going back and forth and thinking that you wanted to add a little bit to what Dr. Rezazadeh was saying. And then after your conversation, I'm going to open it to other people who wanted to share. And just to let everybody know, you're all unmuted. So I don't know if you want to talk unless, and because your faces are not there, I can't see you. There's a chat message there, and I want you to go to the chat and say, I want to talk, so that I can see you and I know who you are, that you want to talk. Go ahead, Dr. Ghasemlou.
Yeah, I'm 100% agree with him, and definitely there are some drugs that they're working on right now. We should consider that for people they have difficulties. But one thing we have to, one thing that I want to share with everyone is basically we have a lot of information regarding how this virus acting and reacting. And later on, there's going to be drugs. They're going to tell us which drug it works, which one doesn't work, vaccination, and all those. But I think there is another point that we have to pay attention to is when there is some kind of calamity, when there is a situation like what we're having right now, it's not only think about how to really the key is what I want to share is the key is how you handle yourself is important, because there are situations that me and you could be in that situation, you handle it differently and you just pass through it, and then I get stuck in it. So I get panic about it, I get stressed about it. So the point is handling yourself, because if you don't handle the situation, don't handle yourself, everything else you're going to handle it accidentally. So it's not consciously. So you really have to pay attention to your the way you think about it, the way you approach it, the way you even become worried about it. Better word is concerned about it. So handling yourself is the key. So we learn a lot of stuff when something like that happens. We start understanding ourselves, our emotions, and behavior. What kind of human I am? Am I a human being or am I a creature? Because if I'm a human being, I know how to be. But if I'm a creature, I just don't know what to do. I mean, there is a good thing and bad thing about this virus. The virus is only attacking humans, not animals. The bad thing is because it's only attacking humans, but the good thing is we have the control by isolating ourselves. That's the best thing to do. The social distancing. These are the things that we have to do. So in this kind of situation, I think it is good to work on our spirituality a little bit. I'm not promoting any kind of practice or religion or anything, but it gives you the time to sit down and think about yourself. You're thinking about me or you're thinking about mine. So who am I? That's a good time to think about, because I'm isolated. I'm forcefully been isolated. I have to stay away from the society, from the family members. I have friends that their parents live upstairs and they live downstairs. They don't see each other. They talk to each other through the phone because the father is too old, so they didn't want him to get sick or something. Because we don't know, maybe I'm the carrier, maybe there's no symptom. But this isolation actually gave me a chance to think about all those stuff. So it is, as I said, it's good and it's bad, but I think we start understanding other people's values. Am I the kind of person that I'm going out to help others, or I'm staying home and worry about catching it? You know, if someone needs my help, do I go and help them or not? These are the things that I think the morality thing is something that, you know, we have to wake up. We have to become conscious about that. That's what I think, you know, that's what I'm doing actually. I'm actually working more internally than externally for myself. And I try to share that with people, that we have this opportunity now, take advantage of it.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm unmuting everybody. All right, who wants to talk? Somebody start sharing before I volunteer you.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, Foojan, that when you talk about worry about something that you can do something about it, it's like our driving. Like everybody knows that every day that you leave home and go to work, you can be killed in a car accident, right? And a lot of people die in car accidents. What we do is we try to be careful, not pass the red light, and do this and that. These are the things that we can do. But at the end of the day, we can still be in a car accident because somebody else's fault, or even your fault because you didn't pay attention to this and that. So the tools that we have nowadays, wash your hands, stay isolated, these are the things that you can do, right? So not doing those is a bad thing. And if you happen to catch the corona, no matter what, and you know whether you, I mean, I would say unlikely, but you know, possibly even die of it, you can't do anything about it, right? It is what it is. So let's do what we can do, and then focus on that rather than worry about things that we can't do anything about it. I mean, just want to agree with what you said, because I was thinking about it today. Like, you know, it's like driving your car every day.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I may say something, you know, you're right. And on a daily basis, every day, when the life was normal somehow, you know, you say, okay, I go to work and I take a lot of chances. And, you know, you're right. Driving, it has a lot of chances of, you know, getting into accident, dying, and this and that. But somehow right now, I feel that the life is not normal. It's lost that normality. And, you know, and I'm at home and I'm, you know, again, I'm going to use the word worry about, you know,
Aaron, can I add something, John? I don't want to cut you, but I let you talk. But I just want to say we got used to that. We got used to taking that risk every day, right?
Right.
In back of our head, we don't know that, right? That we're taking a risk. Every day you leave home, you don't think about I can be killed in a car accident.
Right.
Do you? No. But that possibility is always there. But you do what you can do to prevent that from happening.
I also think that there's a change that happens that we choose the change. And although it's uncomfortable for us to go through a change, but because we've chosen the change, and usually when we want to change something, we first visualize it and then look at all the path that we have to take, and we usually systematize the change and we get there. Although change is uncomfortable, but when it's our choice, we can handle it better. But a change that happens to us, which is not something we requested, and it just comes upon us, I think it's very normal that at the beginning we diffuse it, we deny it, we avoid it, we try to, fight it. And then because we didn't visualize what's going to happen at the end, then we will, obviously have anxiety about it. So I think that we got to look at change has happened and it's here. There's no way of denying it. We're dealing with it. So now it's like, how do we handle the change as is? And how do we cope with the change that showed up for us? Because it's here and it's not going away for now. There's a promise of it going away, but when, we don't know. And I think that's the part of not stop fighting with the change. and then adapt to it, and then surf around what can be done. What is it that you need to keep safe? What is it that if you are isolated at home, like you said, it's a new thing for a parent and their children to all be home and not go out. This is a new thing.
Right.
We haven't had this, like in my lifetime, we haven't had this, where people have had to, everybody in the family had to stay together and not go out. Like if we were going to go to a vacation together and all of us in the same hotel room or a house, we still went out. We went to restaurants. We went to do things. We created activities. But this concept of being confined in a house, it's new. So we got to look at it from a new perspective. Yes, we're going to get annoyed. And yes, we might, get connected in a different way. Yes, we might, experience intimacy with people who we have around us, a different dialogue with each other. So I think that it's looking at the new, and I think both all of the professionals are also saying that when you look at something new, at the beginning, you only look at the negativity because you're trying to adapt, you're trying to cope, you're trying to manage. So now it's like, oh, can we also look at what else is there which can be positive? Because if you're only looking at the negativity, then you're not going to be able to adapt very well because you're fighting with the negativity constantly. Because you're saying, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, this is bad, I don't want it. Right. So if we start also looking at the positive aspect of it, then, if you balance it and then you try to add more to the positive aspect of it so that you maintain what is. Now, we all know what is, it's not going to be here for a lifetime. It just won't. We're going to go back to some form of an original life or something different than what we had before, and definitely something different than what it is. So if you look at it only as a transitional period, you'll make the best of it in the transitional period. And then you have to keep yourself safe financially, emotionally, physically, all of it, to keep yourself in a safety location, get all the resources that you could get help from anybody and all of us together in order to pass through this transition time. This is not here to stay. We might get another epidemic sometimes else, and I'm sure we will, but at this point, this is only a transitional space. So you don't need to fear that this is going to be here for the rest of our life. Anybody wants to share? People who have not shared, would you guys like to share? Because us as professionals, we can talk all day. That's what we do. We have a new person coming in. Thank you. We're sharing right now. If you have something to share, please jump in and share. Sohaila.
Salam, خوب هستین؟ I just got in. I haven't listened to the conversation, so I'm gonna take a few minutes to see what you're talking about, but I'll get on back tomorrow because I missed most of your conversation.
Sure, we'll see you also tomorrow, but yeah, we'll definitely enjoy having your conversations. Anybody else wants to share?
Foojan, I wanted to announce something again. I mean, it's totally a different issue that I wanted to bring up. There is a clinical trial run by University of Minnesota to give patients who had exposure to patients with COVID-19 infection. So if you had the exposure, then you're worried about catching it. You have to be high risk. They treat the patient with hydroxychloroquine to see if they can prevent the disease from happening, all right? So there are two things that is really unique about this trial. One, you can register online. You don't need to see a doctor. Two, they ship the drug to you. So just to let you know, it's almost becoming impossible to find a hydroxychloroquine in the pharmacies. You cannot, even if the doctor writes for it, it's very difficult to get it. And I think soon enough it'll be impossible to find it, although they're trying to supply the drug soon. So if you were exposed, it's good to know that there's a trial that you can be enrolled in, and they ship the drug for you, and then you follow online. So just want to make sure that everybody knows that is spread the word as well.
Yeah, what comes up for me though, Dr. Rezazadeh, is these drugs are very experimental. So wouldn't the suggestion be that only do this if there's an extreme need for it versus, you know, I'm sorry to say, but a lot of us, the minute we have minimal symptoms, we jump in to, you know, take a lot of medication and drugs and this and that. And if drugs are experimental at this point, why should someone who is, you know, having maybe very mild or even moderate symptom put their body into this type of an exposure? Wouldn't that be only for people who are really chronic at this point? Unless, I mean, and I understand that obviously these are, you know, you give your body tested for the benefit of all, but what are your thoughts on that?
That's exactly right. What you said is exactly right. I mean, it's not like we know that it's going to help, but if you have a body that can handle 6 or 7 days, is 7 days of hydroxychloroquine, and you want to help out with this cause that I want to be a part of it to find out if the drug's going to be helpful. Maybe next year, if it hits again, we have a tool to use at that time. By no means, I mean, the name is there, clinical trial. It's a trial, right? So we don't know if it's helpful. I do not suggest that hydroxychloroquine is gonna help with this virus. We don't know that. Whoever says that, I say it may, I don't know, it may be, but it needs to be proven. But we don't have that proof.
Thank you. Dr. Kiani, you wanted to speak?
As all of you, thank you very much for all your sharings. It was beautiful and very informative. It's been fantastic. As Foojan Zeine, you mentioned that this concept is so new for every one of us that, you know, every day we're coming across a new phenomena that we never, you know, had to think about it throughout, you know, at least our lives. So as it is new as it is, I think, you know, we have that responsibility again towards ourselves to really look at, you know, from that angle that, okay, do I have any control over this? And have I been missing and just, you know, creating something that I had control over and I haven't been playing that part of me? Me and my husband been on top of our legal paperwork from just, you know, 2 hours a day. We got to take care of this puppy. So these are the things that, you know, if you have that anxiety, personally for me, as it is very new for every one of us, I have been dealing with my anxiety this way. I'm just paying attention to the area that I have control over. Again, I just wanted to emphasize this because as new as it is, it's been really helping me and the clientele that I've been working with. I'm just, you know, making them responsible to pay attention to things that it has been essential, and they've been just, you know, putting it on hold for years and years sometimes. We have that control.
I was actually speaking with a colleague who's an attorney, and her specialty is trusts. Oh. And I was talking to her, she said that this past week, she's gotten so many people calling to say, I'm worried, and now that this is the case, and because they're home and they have a little bit of the time, because usually anybody, when you say, have you done your will and trust? No, I don't have time right now. I'm not dying, who cares? And it's interesting that she got a lot of calls in people being responsible in what it is that they need to do. And I think it's important to see what it is that we haven't done for a long time. And these are the time to go and handle all of it. Everything that we thought we haven't done, everything that we thought, you know, I'm passionate about, but never had the time to do it. This is the time to do it. I've cleaned all of my garage, you guys. My pantry, my garage, my closet is spectacular at this point. Everything is spick and span. And I know that, because we were talking this morning and looking at what were your passion and some of the things that were your passion, and you wanted to, you know, take the time and really expand on those areas. It's been amazing that I've started doing these little clips of video and media, and almost now 50% of my time is media. And it's interesting of how this is something that I'm passionate about and I like doing. So the space that I've found, it's going into this space. So I'm sure that everyone can look at what was the part that they wanted to do. I know, Arash, you were talking about things that, studies that you wanted to really look at even from a couple of years ago, that you were, because you were so busy that they kept going aside. You're like, I'm sitting and, looking at all of these studies that I really wanted to see, and I'm reading them all back again. So I'm sure that if we look at those pieces, we could take opportunity, the same thing that Dr. Rasamlu was saying, the opportunity at this time to look at what we can do with the allowed time that we have been given. And I don't know how long this will be given. Maybe in 2 weeks, we will all be back at work, or a month from now, we will all be back at work. But obviously, if China and Hong Kong and Singapore and Korea are going back to work, obviously we're going to go back to work to the same way that it was. So cherish the time that you guys have, maybe with your family, with yourself, with the space and time that you have being at home, and enjoy it, because this shall also be taken away. I don't think this one is staying for too long either.
Absolutely.
Who else wants to share? I'm going to unmute all of you. All right. Anybody wants to share? Dr. Rasamlu, anything for the conversation, to complete your conversation? I think he's frozen. Do we have him? I don't think we have him. All right. So one of the things that I would really suggest for us to do, oh, there you are. You're back. Dr. Rasamlu, anything you want to share?
I just lost you. I don't know if it was my connection.
I think your internet is slow.
So yeah, I 100% agree with what you said. Or in general, do you have problem with the connection too, or?
No. You're slurring your speech, and I'm positive you didn't just go drink and get drunk. It must be your internet.
No, I'm fine. I see this as a wake-up call for us. I mean, you said tomorrow we might go back to work and just a normal life. I hope not. I think we got the lesson, and we start acting more responsible, because if I'm not wrong, like 60,000 people died from the simple flu last year. I mean, so far, the whole globe hasn't had that kind of, number yet with this virus. So people, keep dying from virus infection. Even if they say, the virus is evaporated, there is no coronavirus, there's other viruses, there is other bacteria that we have to pay attention. So I think the whole situation, it gives off the sense of waking up, be responsible, be more human being than the creature. So that's something that I hope continues as far as our responsibility, as far as our hygiene, because our hygiene is very important. I mean, we pay attention to it in this country, but many people die because of lack of hygiene they have, other than, the virus that we have right now. So this is a wake-up call. So we have to really learn our lesson if we stay alive. So we have to do that. I was watching a movie today, which I don't have chance to watch it often, but this movie was about the viruses that was, I don't remember the name, but it was the virus that make you zombie, actually, and you start killing other people. So I said, okay, thank God this virus is not making you zombie, it kills you. So look at the positive way of it, could be worse. So these are the lessons we have to get from it. So we're not going to live forever. So at least, we learn something from this. This is like, some sort of training for our behavior, maybe. That's the way I look at it.
You were saying this, and I remember a couple of nights ago, we've been really into movies, like all English movies, and then we went to Persian movies, and then we went into Indian movies. So we're going international movies, 1 or 2 every night. But we started looking at all these sci-fi movies, and I'm like, really? Like in 20 years, this is going to be life? That's it. I'm so happy that I live at this point, because most of these sci-fi movies, have you noticed? They're all, they're all living in these iron things. And so the human concepts of beating the crap out of each other and murdering each other and doing a power trip on each other, and then being nice to each other and getting the camaraderie of helping another. The human dynamic apparently stays. It's just the technology changes. If at one point we used to kill each other with a stone, now we kill each other, with machine guns. Now, 20 years from it, they'll kill you with something that, is like, So it was very interesting that when you even look at the future and the way that humanity looks at the future or projects the future, keeps holding on to the same dynamic of power control, but then, just changes the technology of how it happens. But on the other side, I'm also hoping that although our brain chemistry, our brains have not changed on 100,000 years, but I also think that some part of the human dynamic and relatedness is similar, but also that there's also other parts of us which are becoming more conscious of the unity, the togetherness, knowing how much we're connected. Like, one virus in one corner of the world now, this is how it handled the rest of the world. Because at one point, people were segregated, and anything happened to them. But with the globalization, anything that anybody does, literally, each human being can, do great for the rest of the humanity, or could destroy the rest of the humanity. And I think this is a different level of responsibility that we have. And to take that seriously, that level of responsibility of taking care of ourselves, taking care of our own emotional health, taking care of everything. I was talking to a group of scientists, and they were saying that the basic is that the technology is going to take us to a whole different level. And we're going to upgrade all of the technology, and we're going to even upgrade the thinking process. But we really have to start also upgrading our emotional process, because if we're not upgrading how we handle things emotionally with the way technology is moving, we're not going to survive it. So this is a time to maybe go within, look at what are the areas that we need to really work on, what are the areas that we're still vulnerable in, how to bring our own strengths in different areas to that part that is vulnerable, and kind of integrate it and build our emotional system and move it up. And I promise you that as you emotionally get yourself healthy, that it also affects you in a mind and body, and your immune system will be better, because you're not always pissed off or afraid. When you're always pissed off or afraid, it also takes its toll on your immune system. So that's what I would suggest. Any last words from anybody?
Foojan, I talked a lot today, but what you were saying reminded me of my experience every single day in the clinic. And it might be surprising to some of you guys who don't deal with the cancer patient, who didn't have cancer patients in your family. But there's a significant number of patients with diagnosis of cancer that diagnosis really changed the way they're looking at life. Means that actually it adds quality to their life. If they were working so hard all their life, that news that there is an end here. You got 2 years to live, 1 year to live, 5 years to live. Do what you like to do, live your life. And when you come back and tell you, I feel so much better. I mean, and a lot of time cancer doesn't have a lot of symptoms. They don't feel ill, but they see the end. It's so many years. You're gonna die of this disease. That's what we tell the patients. Yes, you feel great now. Things may change. Maybe a new drug 5 years from now that you're gonna live for a long time. But what we have right now, your life is gonna be limited by something. Then you start thinking, what are the things that I like to do? It's not exact same situation right now, but you're given the opportunity to think again that we're all vulnerable and we can all die at some point somehow. What are the things that we like to do, and can adjust your lifestyle and do things that you like to do? Because it's a good reminder that we're not going to live forever.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if I really want to live forever either.
Say again?
I said, I don't really know if I want to live forever either.
you forget that, right? I mean, that's our nature. We forget that there's an end. We don't think about it every day, right? But
Actually,
if somebody tells you this is the date,
yeah, Arash, there was a movie that we were watching, and it said, you know, that you could push a button and it would actually tell you that when is exact time that you would die. And we had this discussion actually. It's like, I actually would love to know. I'm very controlling and I love to control everything. So I would really love to know exactly when I would die. Because then I could really like plan every minute of it exactly what I would do. So I think it's even the unknownness of when you're going to die that it's, you know, it's more of, you know, what am I missing or what is it that I needed to do that I will. But I think that I agree with you that this concept, and I think Mehran brought it beautifully right at the beginning. And I said, what are you afraid of? And immediately it was like death. And so bringing death in front of us, or bringing the concept of lack of independency, like becoming dependent because we're not well, or financially we become, you know, fragile, or physically for a long time. So these two of, if I'm not as independent and strong as I am right now, how would I handle fragility, and then how would I handle death? And I think that one of the lessons that we could look at is it's inevitable that it's going to come, because at one point we will be 80, 90 years old, so we're going to be fragile, and at one point we're going to die. But we're not dead, and we're not fragile right now. So it's like, how do I enjoy now with all the strengths and the things that I do have? Because the other one is inevitable, and it's going to show up anyway. And then I'll make the experience then when it's happening. I don't need to guess it at this point. When I'm there, I'll experience it. I'll be fragile, I'll be dependent, and I'll be right at deathbed, and at one point I'll die. So right now I'm here, I'm healthy, and I can enjoy what I have. And I think to bring back ourselves into the present moment, I think that it's really, really helpful. 5 minutes. Anybody last word?
Yeah, I would like, if you I may, I would like to add a little piece to Mehrajan. Mehrajan, if you just, you know, give me a few seconds of your just time, I would like for you to just imagine yourself in a beautiful, newly painted white room, which has 2 doors right in front of one another. And you're very, very comfortably standing and leaning towards one of the walls. And you're letting that thought, that concern that's been bugging you, just come from one door. You observe it as long as it wants to stay, but you just watch the thought leaves the room. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. It's been great. It's a joy to have you all, and some of you again as a repeat call, and some of you newly here. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., we're going to have it on Farsi. So just tell your friends there who want to be here and talk Farsi, and all of the professionals, if you can be here again, love to have you. And any other professionals that you know that they could come in and give some information from their expertise, it would be great in this area. And your friends and family, if you think this is useful, let them know to come in, share, learn from each other, and you know, have a space to do Zoom party with each other a little bit until we can all get together. So thank you so much for all of the time that you've allowed yourself and all of us.